I used to look at Durga with the weapons in her hands, or Kali, who happens to be a favorite goddess. I kind of like the dancing and destruction part of things. And I used to wonder why we didn't hear more stories saying, be like her. But I'm going to let both of you take it. How do you deal with it when your culture tells you that you should be a certain way?
Listen. Oh, sorry.
No.
Politics is what happens to men. Culture is what happens to women. It's politics. It is the same thing. If God is a man, man is God. I mean, it just makes no sense. Why was Jesus blonde and blue-eyed in the middle of the Middle East? because of racism, hello, And at least you have some female figures in your culture and religion, which we have, practically nothing. And I understand that yours were powerful and got domesticated over time, but you can undomesticate them. But I just think we need to deeply understand that that religion is just politics you can't talk about.
Thank you. Got the mic?
Okay, at so many of these meetings, one hears men must change, the psychology of men must change. But I think if we are honest with ourselves, we feel women must change first. Every woman must take a resolution that she will treat her female children the same way as she treats her male children. How many mothers sitting here treat their boys the same way as they treat their girls? And I would like to quote something I read the other day. If a man treats a woman like a princess, it's obvious he was brought up in the arms of a queen.
I have a question, a return question actually for you. Is that, what if a woman doesn't want to be a mother? And, we are not bringing up any daughters. I think it's also important is how we all treat each other. And, it's also how we treat other men, how do we treat other women. But it's more than just bringing up children. Because a lot of the debate these days has been about bringing up children. But, I think our generation is moving up beyond bringing up children. It's about us. And we really want to know how to treat each other. And that is such a key question in our relationships. How do we treat our husbands? How do we treat our brothers? It's deeper.
Okay. No, I think you're absolutely right. And it's true in little ways, too. Every time we pass a mirror and criticize our bodies, a girl is watching. If we want our daughters to be strong, we all do what we see much more than what we're told. So we have to be an example. My only proviso here is I would say that women can't fight men's revolution for them. We've already made soup and darned socks and so on. We can't also make the, that's why it's important that I as a white person or men as male human beings come to see the whole humanity that they are missing and take responsibility. And there are, in this and other countries, yesterday we had a whole rap group on stage here of teenage men who were doing a performance against violence against women. And there was just a whole television show about young men in school who are, saying, no, girls are equal. And so I think there are a lot of male allies. But you're right, we are responsible for our acts, whatever they are.
And if I might add to that, one of the things that happened on the first day of the December protests in Delhi, I was speaking to a bunch of young women and men. The women, by and large, had the same story. They were saying, we don't want protection, we want freedom. And they really wanted to be heard on that front. I asked one of the young boys, he was about 16 years old, why he joined in. And he was helping to organize the lines against the water cannon guy and the tear gas guy. And he said because he grew up in a family with an abusive father, and he saw the way his father treated his mother and him, And he said, I don't want to be that man. I don't know what kind of man I want to be, but I want any other kind of man. So maybe that answers your question to some extent, which is that it's the way you bring up your sons and daughters, but to a large extent, I guess, the way we treat each other in every single relationship, One of the things that became very obvious during this wave of protests and the previous wave of protests in my 30s and 20s was the equality that we suddenly found often in the middle of a protest march or in the middle of a group of people like us dissolved when people went back home or went back to their schools or workplaces. And that's a point at which you have to stop and say, wait a minute, why are you behaving differently? But I'm sorry, we have a question on the line.
Yeah.
And after this, we yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear you? Okay, maybe it's an add-on. Recently, I saw a movie from Iran made by a woman, Hush, Girls Don't Scream. And it is about, in Iran, a society like that, on pedophilia. And this is the first time a movie of that kind has been made in the country. And I asked her how it is, apparently it's a big hit there, and men are coming and discussing it. In India, when it was shown in the Bangalore Film Festival, where I was, women came and literally hugged her. NGOs invited her to speak about it, because as you know, it is as true of India, of the, we saw in monsoon wedding and all how, we always put it under the carpet because it's an honor thing. I was just wondering, it is another branch of media, how it can be used, people young girls who are asking how it changed the mindset of men. Maybe this kind of movie can be shown, in gatherings and all. And it was done in such a tasteful way that never showed the girl being violated. You can always...
you mean that it wasn't voyeuristic, it was just factual. But, yeah. But thanks for sharing that. I mean, I just think that shared stories are powerful. There are a lot of questions from the group at the back whom we haven't got to, so if we could get a mic across there, I can see, we're going to go right to the back right now. I can see a hand up there, and then a lady in stripes. We have time, I think, for just 2 or 3 more questions with me out here, and then after that you can ditch me because I have to go for the next session and continue. So.
We can't hear you.
Hi. Oh, sorry. As a white American woman, I would like to be in solidarity with Indian women as they move forward. But I also know I can't understand the experience of being an Indian woman, so I don't know how I bridge that, how I am in solidarity without being arrogant.
That's something Gloria can answer. Well, I would say just listen. I mean, there's nothing, we can as human beings empathize with each other, but we need to listen and not imagine that our experiences are the same as someone else's. But also don't let current divisions stop you.
Hello. Roger. Hello.
Make sure that you listen. On the other hand, don't fail to understand that we as human beings share more than divide us.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Just a second. We were going to go across to that side. Sorry, we've had a lot of hands up. We'll get back.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've got a mic failure out there, so just a second. Do we have another mic? I'm so sorry we took away your mic completely, but we'll try and bring it back.
This may seem like an extension of some of the questions already asked, but every time there's an incident of violence or assault against women, people say that laws aren't going to help. what we really need to do is change people's mindset. Now this change in mindset always begins at home. But a lot of us here know how difficult it is to really have a liberal upbringing, to really have parents who understand the need of girls to be treated equally as boys. And that, I can say from experience, is very discouraging, it's very frustrating when your own family members don't get that. So how do you get over that discouragement? How do you move on? How do you let change happen?
Well, don't try not to get into an either-or situation, you know, that it's either the family or law, because all that either-or stuff usually comes from gender. We think you know, like in my culture, we say every issue has two sides. No, it may have 6 or 12, you know. I mean, it's such an oversimplification. We need the law. We need changed law. We need effective punishment. You know, there's one of the great Latin American novelists said, when the people could withstand flood and pestilence and fire, but when the law was unjust, they went crazy, you know. So we need to have that, and we need to start in the family. Just the important thing, I think, is to don't worry about what you can't do what you can.
Great. We have enough time for one last question, but then after that, what Gloria and Ruchira are suggesting is that if you have questions for them, they could sit out there and just talk for a bit. So anyone who wants to keep the conversation going, it's okay, you know, the mic, even if the mic doesn't come to you, you'll have a chance.
I had a question for Ms. Steinem. I wonder what your assessment of the condition of women in the U.S. workplace is today. And by way of background, I'm a journalist, and in 2009 I wrote a story about how since the financial crisis, women have been losing jobs in far greater numbers than men. And I wonder, as we live in a world of dwindling resources, will the protections that I was afforded when I started my career, will they be available to the next generation of women?
I agree we have to fight to protect what we already have. And as for an overall assessment, we still in the United States don't yet have equal pay for equal work. So a woman earns something like 70 or 77 cents on each dollar earned by men. Equal pay would be a huge economic stimulus of $200 billion a year. Jobs are still gendered. So basically, women have what we call the pink-collar jobs. But we've made huge inroads, because now little girls growing up can see a woman in the Senate who didn't just get there because she married a guy who was a senator and he died, you know, which was up before the women's movement, the only way that women got there. She can turn on the television and see women discussing serious, but you know, if I had to estimate, I would say we're no more than a third or 40% of the way there.
Okay. I think we have to stop the questions now, but just from both of you, say about to the women of the next generation.
Hello.
Stop, because and change does happen in my own time. Ahead of me, I've seen change happen from the 20 years ago when I took a stand. It gave me an education, but also gave me a movement and a family of choice. And I've got more and more involved, and since I began working on the specific issue of sex trafficking itself, I've seen laws change, I've seen lives improve, I've seen the conversation change, I've seen girls of prostituted women in school, I've seen prostituted women organize and access housing and other rights. So, you know, change does happen from the bottom to the top. And if you do it from the bottom, it stays and stays and stays. So just carry on, don't stop protesting. This is really a fantastic time in India, and I'm going to be in as many rallies as I can. Right now, there is a rally against Section 377, the women's movement. It's all interconnected. So the last slogan that I shouted was, "Kaun sa kanun sabse battar? 377, 377." So all issues are interconnected.
You know, I don't know. It's hard to say without a specific situation, right? But say what you are thinking and feeling. Try to be authentic. Try to be who you really are, which is not dictated by gender or caste, or, I mean, you know, each of us is unique. Try
be there. In fact, if we could get a couple of chairs out there. Oh, yeah? Yeah, okay. Thanks so much, and thanks for being such a wonderful audience.